It would seem that the vicious circle must become yet more intolerable, more blatantly and desperately circular, before any large numbers of human beings awaken to the tragic trick which they are playing on themselves. But for those who see clearly that it is a circle and why it is a circle, there is no alternative but to stop circling. For as soon as you see the whole circle, the illusion that the head is separate from the tail disappears. Alan Watts. Good evening, everybody. It's been a long time. Hold on. Jerry Watson. I don't know who Jerry Watson is. I don't think I'm gonna let that guy in. Awfully quick for someone that doesn't regularly come in. All right. Tonight, I'm gonna go over awareness of vicious circles, and you're gonna see a lot of that reference in Alan Watts' work. So if you watch or listen to Alan Watts or read any of his stuff, he's going to reference vicious circles quite a lot of times. And before I get into that, I think I am going to just kind of say how things are. Things are okay. My wife has been feeling ill. Her temperature's low. It's not like high. She's just not feeling very good. Kids, my son's daycare, I think there's like a few of the teachers have COVID-19 or something, so they had to scale back the amount of kids, and if anyone who could volunteer to not bring their kids to daycare, well, so my son isn't, so staying home with him, or staying home with me, sorry. And my daughter, of course, I usually pick her up and she stays home. And next week she has no school. And also after the Thanksgiving break, she goes back to school and has like a stay-at-home school thing on a Fridays where I think she can connect through Zoom or something like that for some stuff. Now, but as far as me, I mean, kids tire you out a lot. They're great. And the meds that I am taking are still, doesn't seem to be working too well, but we'll see. And one of the, I think, side effects is I'm just always tired. I don't know why. I'm just really tired all the time. So I'll figure that out. So vicious circles, awareness of vicious circles. Circles are, it's interesting. I mean, you can, wow, you can relate it to, like, I guess a ring. The way I like to think about it or talk about it, express it, whatever it is, to just illustrate the point. There's a couple of analogies that I've had in the past, especially with Aria Parcia with my interviews the last couple of times. I know I haven't done a lot of videos in a while, but imagine, can you think of walking in a circle without going back to the same spot, right? I mean, when I say that, it's easy to interpret, and I can easily see or feel or imagine that you're thinking, well, no matter what, if you walk in a circle, you're just going to end back in the same place. So it's impossible. Well, if you interpret it in in the usual way, I guess you would probably interpret it is you're walking on, say, like a ball, a globe, or a treadmill, whatever. And we could use this ring, my wedding ring, as an example. See that black line? Imagine you are walking on that black line and you are in first or third person view. And you just keep walking, you're on the top of it. You're walking in a circle and you end up in the same place. So how do you walk in a circle but not in the same place? Well, turn it over. It's a circle, right? You stand at the edge and you walk in. You're walking in a circle and where you won't end up in the same place. So think of that as you will. That's an answer to the question. It may not be to your liking, but that is an answer. So vicious circles, it's something that you it's something personal. It's something that is something you agree to, but you don't realize that you're agreeing to it, although you should. One of the examples that I give is, just everyday life stuff can be good examples. One of these is me and my wife, when we first moved here to Columbus, we had trash service and recycle service. And of course, we didn't have a lot of trash. We didn't have a lot of recycling. Basically, all of our foodstuffs, biodegradables, go into compost and all that stuff. Most of our food stuff just gets composted. So that's less trash. Now, we also recycle. So that's also less trash. Now, there are certain things that can't be recycled in Columbus, glass especially. So whenever we go to Omaha, she just goes to a recycling glass place and just dumps it there for free. And there's also a recycle place where she can recycle paper material for free, which she does, because one of the reasons that we were thinking is of not using the trash and recycle service is that they keep raising the price on us. So it's like, well, we don't really have a lot of trash. We don't really recycle. We do a lot of recycling, but what I realized, and I don't know if she does, is that when we had that service, we would have to justify the price that we would pay every other week to use that service, especially if they raised the price. And they raised the price probably 2 times a year, which is insane. But it's like, well, we don't want to pay for a service we don't use, so we need to make sure that we have a lot of trash that they pick up. Otherwise, why do we even use the service? And so when we stopped using the service, the trash service, the recycle service, we ended up having less trash because we didn't need to accumulate things in order to make the service worth paying for. It's like if you were paying for Netflix or Disney Plus or HBO Max or whatever it is you can stop at any time, right? They don't have a contract for it. But most people can go weeks or months without paying for it. Same thing with the gym membership. They'll have a membership, but they won't go. They're too lazy to watch it. On occasion they'll go, you know what, we should watch something. And so they watch something that they don't like watching. Or they'll try something new out, even though, they're not in the mood, because they feel like, well, if we don't watch it, we're not really making having that subscription or that membership worth it. So we got to make it worth it. So you spend time that you don't want in order to justify that monthly cost or whatever it is. So that's another vicious circle. And all of this is on your own doing. And a lot of people get stuck. It's the whole Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, the circle. Is they always show, the only way they can really show the circle is, in a two-dimensional way. Because if they showed it to you like this, well, it's not really a circle, that you don't know what it is. It could be, I don't know. It's difficult to show. But yeah, just see that circle that you're in. It's a vicious one. I mean, there are more vicious ones. We can take the COVID-19 coronavirus as an example. Very similar to the Spanish flu of 1918. And you can read the National Institute of Health articles and things like that before, say, 2010, right? Even before, I want to make sure it's before 2020, definitely before 2010. But if you go ahead and read any of the National Institute of Health, they'll state that most of the autopsies and written accounts of what occurred in the past with the Spanish flu of 1918, more deaths occurred from pneumonia than the actual Spanish flu. So that is kind of repeating itself. That's, in a way, again, when you think of history repeating itself, of course, you tend to think of it like the circle, right? You tend to think of it as things going around. But it's not that. If you think of the circle not as a round ring, not as walking this way, tend to think of a circle like that. History, the term history repeats itself is a different interpretation entirely. And it sucks because the language that we use, every language that there is almost, I don't know if there is a language that doesn't go through that, has its own pitfalls of its own vicious circleness. And so try not to use any language. And I think I was thinking, because I think Alan Watts used this, had this same problem. He had, how do we get this message across without being stuck in its own mess? And he's a great orator. He's very good with words, and he was able to have a sense of almost getting it done, but not quite, because you still have to communicate without using the context of social influence. And we've got a lot of social influence these days. So the more that I would try to explain things and give analogies to, it's not going to help people. It's, of course, none of it is going to help anybody, because that doesn't want to do their own research and look for it themselves. One of the things I always do is, hey, this is a vicious circle. If you think about it, why don't you look into it? And it's not really about knowing, because you're not going to know. That's the thing. You don't know. You can't know. It's a weird thing to know that you can't know. And I don't even know that you can't know, because see, that's its own trap. This language is its own trap. But we still try anyway, don't we? A lot of us just try to help out. So I figured, screw it. I'm gonna try, and but I'm still gonna remind people that there is, in itself, the trying to help reveal to others whatever you want to call this illusion, maya, not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, but it exists and it's there. And the great mystery of life is its own mystery, which you'll never solve, right? Life is not a mystery to be solved, but a gosh, who is that guy that quoted that? Life is not a mystery to be solved, but a reality to be lived, or something like that, right? One of these things is another thing with this medication is that my memory is kind of shot now as far as rote memorization, but that's a good thing. Memory, remote, rote? Is it mote? I think it's rote. Rote memorization is its own trap as well. Everything's almost a trap. It's crazy, but it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. Globe Earth Flat Earth, it's a fun one. That's also a vicious trap. You're not going to know either way, but I think it's just fun watching things turn on its head or tail. You know, heads or tails. Isn't that funny? You get a coin. It's a circle. On one side, it's a head. On one side, it's a tail. And if you're on the outside, you're going to be in the same place. No matter how fast you go, you're going to end up in the same place. But you turn the coin on its side, you get out of that circle. You're inside the circle. You're in the inner circle, right? You could say that a lot of these cults or occult groups and secret societies all trying to get you into their inner circle, in which you are no longer in your own vicious circle, you're in their vicious circle, which they don't have to tread, you tread for them. So don't tread on me. You should try to break away from that vicious circle as well. But so many intricacies. But you know, I know a lot of people aren't going to understand a lot of the things that I say. Yeah, maybe some people will eventually find me, listen to me, and go, you figured it out too. Yeah, and I'm getting there. It's one of these weird realizations of playing chicken. You can play chicken. You know, where you're going against someone else and you're going head first into each other, and who's going to be the one that veers away. Once you get into this place, I don't know if place is the wrong word for it. I don't know what word to use. Once you get into this, and consciousness is another thing you could use. It's still the wrong word for it. There's no word for it. Once you get into this concept behind concepts, you're not going to veer away, and not because you have this sense of domineering power over someone else, to prove something or whatever. It's this curiosity to, you're ready to go. You're ready to die if death is in its plans for you. And you're going to see if is this place that you're in, this consciousness, this concept beyond concepts, is this really it? Or am I just crazy, even though, you know, it seems like everyone else is crazy and you're not? And you're going to not veer away. You're going to see what happens. And I think you're going to see that everyone else starts veering away. And you're like, why are they veering away? Why? Because whatever it is, whatever the Maya is, the illusion is, it doesn't want to reveal itself. It will do whatever it can to not reveal itself. So therefore, it will give way to you, right? As much as it, and here's the thing. That's the exploit. You know how video games, software, you can exploit it, right? There's flaws in almost anything. You can exploit something to your advantage. Basically, an exploit is some type of bug or feature that works in a way that it's not intended to. And you'll notice that in life, it doesn't seem to work that way. There's no exploit you can do as far as nature is concerned, like Mother Nature, plants and animals and things like that. You can't really exploit it. You can exploit it in a way that, you know, how we use the term exploitation of animals, exploitation of land, exploitation of water sources and things like that. But it's not quite how you can do it. But if you take the concept of, well, all of this stuff that appears, that you see, all your senses can interact with, you can exploit it in a way, but not to exploit it because you want to overtake it, or you want to control it. You just want to see where it goes. You know? Excuse me. And every time more of these vicious circles that you see and explore and investigate and all this stuff and avoid, sometimes you'll go for it. Sometimes it's just like, you know, I know it's a vicious circle, but I still want to do it. It's like a what's that term for it? I don't know. It's not like you want to seek pain or you want to seek punishment. It's just, you know, sometimes it's just gonna hurt, but you just want to experience it anyway. It's like, right? Love. You fall in love with someone. Most of the time, you know, it's like majority of the time, it's gonna end badly, but you still want to experience some of that good parts. It's the same with psychotropic psychedelic drugs, right? You know you're going to experience something transcendental, if that's what you want to call it. But there's a big catch to it. Whenever you take it, it's not fun. Like the journey as you go through it is intense. It's joyous, if there's a term for it, but there's also a lot of enduring, a lot that you have to bear, and it's not like you seek it. It's not like you want to do it, but you want to understand a little bit more, and so you go for it, right? It's one of those things. Anyways, people who want to join in today, I put in the Zoom information. So if you do want to join and talk with me, you don't have to talk about this awareness of vicious circles, but hey, we can talk about it too. There's so much vicious circles going on, and I think Alan Watts' quote, which is pretty great, is pretty telling. Is all these is, we don't create it; it's created there for us, but most of us accept it. We don't even think about accepting it, but we accept it. Some of us think about it. We don't want it, but we accept it because we just want to see where it goes. And it's not always a bad thing. It's not. Max Waller. You're in that vicious circle again. Globe Earth, flat Earth. But look into it. It's a fun. People take things too serious. It's like a Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker. Why so serious? Don't take things so seriously. Everyone takes things way too seriously. I've noticed that I don't take things seriously enough, even when I was young and before my experiences of whatever this is. It's still not serious. Like, take the worst person to the extent of being and imagine all is forgiven. Imagine the worst person you could think of. All is forgiven in the end. I don't know why. And it's not even the end. It's just the aftermath. There's still going on, right? You can't go on. There's no aftermath. There's no end. Even in the circle. When you go inside the circle, there's still no end. It's just a new direction that's not been taken before. That's part of the fun. I think the thing with space as destinations, the entirety of interstellar travel, going to star systems and other planets and things like that, that's never going to be done because we already either it's already been done or not in this world that you want to call a world, or it hasn't been done, but we know that it's just another dead end, therefore we don't do it. I don't know exactly. I think we'll understand more as we go inside of these vicious circles to explore, and that's the fun stuff. I think before all this happened, I would have been happy as can be, having my own spaceship, whatever you want to call it, and exploring the galaxy and solar systems and stuff like that. But that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. My generation, your generation, the next generation after that, it's never going to happen. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's going to be something more unique. It's going to be something that hasn't even been imagined yet. And that's the amazing thing about, if you believe in God or if you believe in evolution, that humans were the best thing that the creator or evolutionary process could create. I mean, there's nothing else out there, as far as we know, but us at the supposed top. And so you've got to imagine that the foundation before us, the foundation that built us, the foundation, whatever, that created us, however way you want to interpret it, is lacking in imagination. Unusual Veracity, how's it going? I remember you. Yeah, it's it's a giddy feeling. It's a fun world. It's a sick and twisted world. That's what's so fun. It's like a dark comedy, and people won't do their research. People won't believe you, even though they'll believe others. And all you have to do, even if you tell the truth, even if you tell them exactly what source to look at, like I always tell people, just look at the source that you believe in, whether it's science, whether it's the government, whether it's some religion, whatever it is. There's always going to be a contradictory, polar opposite of what they tell you, as far as when they tell you, and for me, like a lot of the stuff, like it all started with politics for me. So government is a thing that I like to reveal most. It's pretty easy. You just go to .gov site, because you can't really spoof a .gov site very easily. That stuff gets shut down fast. But all of that's there. You want to look for information on COVID-19, of masks, and whether it works or not, and studies and research. Well, you go to .gov site, like before 2015 even, and there's going to be a lot of citations of how masks don't really work too well. Regular masks, it didn't work in the past, especially cloth masks and all of that stuff. And people won't look into it. You can, maybe they're big into science. You know, look into the science, look into the research, and then you can see contradictory stuff. You can look into globe Earth, flat Earth. What's other polar stuff? Conspiracy theories. 9/11 truthers. 9/11. Well, it happened exactly the way that the official story, and of course that leads to government, another system. But whatever it is, they won't look into it no matter what. It's always a one-way street, and you notice a lot of these vicious circles based on a couple of factors that you can easily see. It's one-way communication. They'll speak to you. You can't speak to them. Right now, unusual veracity. Max Waller, right? You guys are chatting. I can respond to you. I mean, I'll read like unusual veracity, you know, controlled folly, forgiving, or inconsequential. Ultimately, plain reality. It's all metaphor until it isn't. Haha, yuck to that. It's going. Truth has become a meme. The internet was almost a miracle when it was fresher. It's been appified. Yeah. You can always join me for the conversation, right? So, I'm not trying to lead you into a vicious circle of my own making to trap you and gain from you. You can't do that with the Pope. You can't do that with bankers, I guess. You can't do that with government. You know, you can't do that with these people in media. I mean, any big league, whatever, say they have a big diploma, right? They won't even come talk to you most of the time. You know, it's these weird. It's like they don't exist in reality because you can't interact with them. I mean, it's almost like I mean, they just only exist on screen. They may come around in some parade that you might see them or something. You might shake their hand in these little gatherings, but it's like you can't have a dialogue. You can't really. They don't have time for you, type of thing. You're beneath them. All this other stuff. So they don't really exist in your world until you get to a next level, type of thing, and then. They may interact with you, but based on how you don't interact with others who want to interact with you, right? You're going into that inner circle again. But again, they want you in their inner circle. And of course, you don't want to go there, but you want others to go in your inner circle either to protect or to exploit. So for most of the time, you don't even want to be in their inner circle anyways. Some people do. Some people get in these inner circles and they realize, well, they can't get away. It's a big trap. Let's see. Unused for Wrestling, LOL, I was responding in real time. It's all good. Just have some comments. Zombified, and the reasons for that are plentiful. Centuries of chemical, physical, and psychic manipulation. Yeah, there's a lot. And but if you think about it, it's a lot of it was done where you never really had a choice. You just accepted it. Now what's interesting is they want you to accept it. They don't want to force it on you. And I'm starting to wonder, is like, why do they want that now? And it's like, I don't know yet. I think I'll figure it out eventually, and I think that's the fun part. Is why are they changing things up? One of the things I like doing is looking at, even though I know history, as quoted by someone memorable that I can't quite remember his name. I remember all these quotes, but now I'm having trouble equating them with whoever said the quote because, well, Who knows if they even said it first? It's basically the most popular of the bunch that said it, that people attribute quotes from. But history is a set of lies agreed upon. I think he was like that UK ambassador during World War II. I can't think of his name. But anyway, history is a set of lies agreed upon. All right, now I'm going to go to talk about, let's see, here we go. I'm going to talk about Christopher Columbus, not flat. Now, one of the things I noticed is, because I was thinking, you know what? I'm curious, when, like, we know how, like, if you go to nasa.gov, they'll tell you that the globe Earth was started because of Pythagoras. And excuse me, and all that history, and that was back in at least 200 BC or before. But when they started making these globe Earths and how close, basically they're called terrestrial globes, and how they actually looked, because I started looking at the Universal Studios logo, which is basically a spinning globe. It's like, when did they first have that spinning globe? How did the territorial layout of the countries, how did they appear? Is it the same? Did it change? I figured as satellites came to be, things were a little bit more finer, detailed, things changed, but once they showed you the Earth from space, outer space, well, they can't change that. It's one and done, unless they get rid of all the footage somehow and saying that they lost it and they would just recreate it. Anyways, it's just funny. Anyways, the Erdapfel was produced by Martin Behaim in 1490 and 1492. How convenient that it's the earliest surviving terrestrial globe. During the time of Christopher Columbus, 1492 was. And anyways, I was thinking about how when I was growing up in school, Daddy God of Hentai. I don't know who that is. Hey, Kathy B, how's it going? So Daddy God of Hentai is trying to come in. I don't know who he is. Anyways, Christopher Columbus. The stories about him, pretty bad fella. The truth about Columbus and the round earth. If you watch any of these, they're all gonna say people back in his time, they all knew that Earth was round, or was a sphere, was a globe. And so the story that we heard growing up in public school or in private school or in universities, that he was trying to say, no, here's a new route to India, and the Earth is actually a globe, it's not flat. He first went to Spain and they laughed at him, so he went to Portugal, or maybe it was the opposite. He went to Portugal and they laughed at him. He went to Spain, and then they go, yeah, okay, we'll do it. and so he goes and he finds the North American continent, or it's the South American continent, yeah, actually, whatever. And anyways, they all say no, all that stuff was wrong, all that history. They don't cite new evidence as to why the 100+ years of history that was taught in schools, that was written in newspapers, was wrong. They just said, yeah, that was just lies. They don't really prove it, right? It's just the new narrative that's presented. But what I love is when you go to like chroniclingamerica.loc.gov, another .gov site you can't spoof, archives.gov/news, and you can't spoof any of these. These are all just things you could look at. I do Christopher Columbus flat as far as my search, and I sort it by date, so the earliest first. Some of these are really I think we can go earlier. I think some of these actually don't go by date very well. Like, I've seen references I think if I don't put it in quotes and I don't put it in date, it'll go as far back as like the 1700s, late 1700s. At least I did before, right? I can't seem to see it now. Maybe if I just type in Christopher Columbus, and you'll see references further back. Yeah, 1792 Gazette, right, mentions Christopher Columbus, the completion of the 3rd century since the discovery. What's funny is all the F's are supposed to be S's. I don't know why. I mean, there are some S's. So I don't understand it. Like the completion of the 3rd century, like you would think it's Vince, the discovery of America, but it's basically, I figured it out, it's an S. The completion of the 3rd century since the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus will be celebrated by the Historical Society. Now, what I don't get is the completion of the 3rd century. What does that mean? Does that mean since? So, since 1492, 1792, they interpret it that way. But anyways, yeah, you get all these photocopies of all these news articles from, holy crap, far away. I love diving into these things because there's some great snippets of reality bending craziness. Right? It's crazy. If you start reading into these things, just start searching around. It's the most entertaining thing that I've ever come across. It's like, you can't make this shit up. I mean, they made it up, but that stuff. I mean, whew, it is crazy. But yeah, it's all free. I don't have any money, so I'm the same boat as you, Kathy. I have to find whatever I can with no cost as much as I can. But anyways, I'm going to go back to Christopher Columbus Flat. You'll see Autumna by Howard L. Rand. I've seen it a couple of times. The Autumna is somewhere in Iowa. He talks about, this is back in 1912 of April 11th. The Earth is a round ball which has been beating a tortuous path around the sun for several million years without bucking anybody off the right of way. The Earth is said to be 91.2 million miles from the sun, although there are times when it seems to be closer. When the Earth is nearest to the sun, it is said to be in perihelion. People spell the word with 2 L's. In the dog days, Adam was the first inhabitant of the Earth, and he liked it so well that he hung on until he was 930 years old and beat all of the fraternal insurance companies then doing business. Everybody thought the Earth was flat until Christopher Columbus sprung the egg trick on Ferdinand and Isabella. Anyways, so I mean, it mentions back even in the early 1900s that everyone believed that thought the Earth was flat until Christopher Columbus. What I love is there's this doctor I was watching earlier today. I'm forgetting his name, but I think you can probably look him up. He says the science, as far as COVID-19 and mask wearing and what works and what doesn't, is like nothing has changed. The science hasn't changed. So what changed? Why is it suddenly, we should all wear face masks? Well, saying the science hasn't changed. All that research that's been done in the past, that's still legit. So what's changed? The politics. So whatever it is, the narrative, you can call it. So again, what we grew up with, especially I would say up until the 90s. I think you can even see it in some of these 1990s, even in the early days of the internet. That you have the Earth being flat, or a lot of people say the history of Christopher Columbus is that everybody thought the Earth was flat, and he was the one that thought it wasn't, and he's the one crazy enough to try to sail around, circumnavigate the Earth, right? But now all you see in the last every video that you have, that everybody knew that the Earth was a sphere. Everybody knew that the Earth was a globe, and that everyone saying that back in the 1400s that saying that everyone thought that the Earth was flat was playing wrong. Well, it's a new narrative. It's a new story. They don't reveal why the centuries of teaching and thought was wrong. They don't go any of that, and that's what I love to look at these papers and explore. Because here's the 1900s. I want to see the 1800s, 1700s. They don't seem to have anything before the 1700s, as far as this site has. But basically, I want to see. Hey, did they mention that Christopher Columbus, in his time, everyone thought that the world was flat, and therefore that's where we get that story from? And how long does it go? And yet, all of that seems to change in the last decade or two. That story, and everything got flipped again. Christopher Columbus is not the hero that we celebrate holidays for. He's the villain, and all of this stuff. He's the idiot. He wasn't the one that was smart and figured things out. People don't even know, like I didn't even know about the egg of Columbus. A trick that Christopher Columbus did. I'm pretty sure that you guys don't even know either. Basically, he was saying, how do you get an egg to stand upright, right? Without using anything else, just have the egg upright on its own. And then basically they failed, and he just basically took the egg, cracked it on one end, probably the wider end, but not crack it all the way. So you got like the membranes at the bottom, and basically he would place it flat that way because it's slightly cracked, not totally broken, and it could stand on its end. And that is some many. At least the Wikipedia cites it as an apocryphal type of thing. So that means that there's the hidden meaning between the egg of Columbus. And anyways, that's just another vicious circle. You're never gonna get any truth to it. You're gonna just keep searching. You can't find any validity to any of it. But you could go searching in certain things that or they state legitimacy is, and see if there's anything that's contradictory. So these are the things that I like doing. Is I like looking through all these articles and seeing, well, what did they think back then? And here is another one. Is an editorial. I think by Roland Ersby, 6th grade, Hibbard School. This is in Richmond, Indiana. What Columbus thought. Long ago, all the people thought that the world was flat. When Christopher Columbus was a boy, he would sit on the seashore, watching the boats come in and go out. Right. This is again in. It doesn't quite say what this one is. Oh, October 13, 1917. So, of course, now you got a secondary source that's saying, okay, it's not Howard L. Rand, it's the 6th grader who was taught the story of Christopher Columbus and everyone thinking that the Earth was flat. And here's another Rand one. It's the same one. Wilmington, Delaware. Here's a different one. I don't see it, but what I love is like, here's this one. Here's a crazy one, right? Things that blow your mind. February 24th. If your mind is still in the place where you think everything is. Sorry, Kathy B. I'm trying to zoom in. I'll zoom in a lot more, as much as I can. So this was in February 24, 1921, somewhere in Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. Page Mr. Christopher Columbus, local man says Earth is flat. Did they have pagers back then? What's a page in that context? Like I'm flabbergasted. It's like, why would they use that term, Page Mr. Christopher Columbus? Back in 1921. as far as I realize, or as far as what we were told with technology, they didn't have pagers until probably like the 70s and 80s, right? Yeah, they used that term, page, Mr. Christopher Columbus, back in the 1920s. What the fuck is going on? Oh. Like, remember how I was looking at the earlier newspaper article? And it was... I figured it out, like the F's were S's, and you know, after the 3rd century, since whatever, that's basically that article was written like 1792. So 1492 when Christopher Columbus sailed the sea to discover the Americas, right? I figured it out. This one I can't figure out. What could it mean back in the 20s to page someone? Yeah, and years of veracity, they might have had pages. There are a lot of sort of weird breakthroughs that never are followed up on. Kathy B. Oh, wealthy people had page boys. Is that where we got it? Page, like Paige. Those are pages. Basically, they're like personal assistants back then. So they would send a personal assistant to get someone or relay someone, like a messenger. That could be it. But then why would they? I don't know. It is. I think that's more correct, Kathy B. But I don't know. It's still weird that they would say it that way. I don't know. Again, there's another vicious circle to go into, but it's again fun vicious circle to navigate. Let's see. Okay, so this is Aldridge Man. Average. I think it's Aldridge. Yeah. Anyways, this is Olympia, Washington. Washington State Library, August 30th, 1922. The Seattle Star. Letter from Average Man. Oh, average. He says, blah, 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 blah. When Christopher Columbus found the world was never flat but round and tried to find a shortcut, who was it said the guy's a nut? His crew is in a sorry plight. Anyways, again, the reference to this is, well, everyone else thought the world was a globe, or flat, and Christopher Columbus said, no, it's a globe. Right? Now, all of a sudden, everything that you hear and read at a certain point in time reverses that and says, no. Everybody knew that the Earth was a globe. Just Christopher Columbus was the first. That story wasn't true. He just was given a chance to find a new route. So where did that story come up from? They could say whatever. They can say whatever they can, but they don't pinpoint any article or reference saying, look, it says here this whole story about Christopher Columbus was never true. They never talk any about that stuff. Anyways, there's just a lot of fun stuff here. Oh, let's look at pager. I'm just curious to see if any of these have references to paper. That's not quite pager. Of course, these are image scans. So of course, the software probably thinks that a P is a G, and can't quite tell they are. I think that's the hardest part about looking through these is the search doesn't always work. It's just what appears to work based on the software program. Okay, invented. So basically, in use of REST, the first telephone pager was 1949 per wiki. Invented in 1921, pagers or beepers, as they are also known, reached their heyday in the 1980s and 1990s. What? Wow. You gotta paste that. Tell me where to look for it. I'll just do a search. Invented in 1921. Pagers or beepers. .co.com. Now that's crazy, right? Here, this is by Mary Bellis, updated September 10th, 2018. You know, of course, they're not going to go over what was updated. Usually, yep, told you. They're not going to tell you what was updated from what was first written. But anyways, long before email and long before texting, there were pagers, portable mini radio frequency devices that allowed for instant human interaction. Invented in 1921, pagers or beepers, as they're also known, reached their heyday in the 1980s and 1990s. To have one hanging from a belt loop, shirt pocket, or purse strap was to convey a certain kind of status. We never see these in shows or movies about the 20s, not even 30s and 40s or 50s. They don't seem to even have pagers when talking about World War One, World War Two, which would have been pretty handy stuff to have back in the day. We see how things are just wacky. It's just amazing how wacky things are. But all this wacky stuff that I'm going through, vicious circle again, but it's an entertaining. I mean, you've got a lot of vicious circles. I think the ones that are most people probably have difficulty getting away from are the entertaining vicious circles, the politics, entertaining vicious circles. I think those are the ones that I'm typically trapped in, are the entertaining ones. That's probably one of the last few remnants of vicious circles I gotta break through. But you know, it gives me a reason to stay around, I guess you could say. Let's see. What are some other fun things we could look through? You know, see that's have fun with this. I know I'm not going to convince anyone, and I'm sure as hell not going to want to persuade people. But basically, the same thing everyone always else says is do the research yourself. Do the research yourself. And every article about conspiracy theories, every government site talking about referencing conspiracy theories, which of course the CIA came up with, and they will even state that the CIA came up with the term conspiracy theory, will say, yeah, where'd you learn this from? The internet. The internet has references for everywhere, but the great thing about the internet is they have places where of legitimacy, right? They want to say, hey, this is a legitimate source, .gov or some newspaper like NewYorkTimes.com. They're going to state all the stuff back in their archives, right? So they said it. Now they're the conspiracy theorists. You know, it's kind of hypocritical when they start changing the narrative that now anyone who thinks this is a conspiracy nut, even though they've written about it back in like the 80s, 90s, probably early 2000s, but now they reverse their narrative. But it's interesting how people don't want to look into this. And I think that's the first step. You're not going to become aware unless you start to pay attention, focus, right? And then you're going to notice a few weird details and oddities, and you're going to look into a little bit more, and you're going to keep going. It's like a breadcrumb trail. And you're going to meet a lot of opposition. I think that's the craziest part. And then the thing that I like to do is do as much research of it I can on my own. Have an answer or a list of answers. I don't know if they're true or not, but they can be referenced to and sourced back to some written account or video or audio transcript. and then try to find others who've come up with the same conclusion, the same findings, I guess you could say, and then listen to them. And it's gonna be crazy because it's like, hey, same conclusion, totally different direction. But the great thing is you get to see how they came up with that conclusion by their methodology, what they looked into, and all this stuff. And you compare notes, and you dive into the stuff that they may have, and then you just segue to something else, and it's just incredible. You become more aware. Again, just awareness is a great thing in general. But then you get these vicious circles where it's just you're trapped. It seems like there's no escape. You want to escape, type of thing. That's kind of how everyone gets into this. It's like there's something about this world, reality, however you want to say it, that's not right. It doesn't jive with you. It doesn't work with you. It doesn't. You don't want to be around. You want to be around because there's some good things. Most of the time it's like there's so many bad things. It's like, why would we want to stick around? And then you'll realize, well, there's some great things that around. That's why you want to stick around. And those great things can't be great unless there's a lot of bad things that are occurring. So I think when I think about it, it's like someone's trying to prevent people from leaving. I mean, if everything was great and dandy, you would think that people would stay. But it's so great and dandy that, they're tired of it, so there's no reason for them to stay. So you reverse it. Well, you make things terrible, but a few things great. So now that they have a reason to stay instead of leaving, right? If everything's all good and it's like, all right, I experienced all the great stuff. It's time for me to leave, and so you go. As opposed to the opposite, right? It's like psychological reverse psychology. It's like, you know what? Instead of making sure that they're okay with everything here, they only have a few things, and it's gonna be hard for them to let go of those few things just because everything else is just so bad. And so it keeps people around, and see how this goes. I think that's a great psychological manipulation of how this world works. It's totally on a whim. Anyways, vicious circles, news of veracity are story arcs that never end. We think in narratives that does not make it real. Just think about how a lot of the current movie industry seems to be dominated by who's that guy who did Star Wars episodes 7 and 9? He has these things called mystery boxes. You reveal one mystery box, and they open it up, and all it is just another mystery box. And so, they don't even make sense when you think about it. But people want to know what's in the mystery box, so they'll stick around. J.J. Abrams, that's right. So, anyways, I think about it like that is that they need the mystery. That's why they have mystery schools, because people are curious. If they know everything, it's like, what's there to stick around for? I'd rather have to go experience the real thing where I could actually find out answers. But once you realize that when you have all the answers, it's no fun. There's no mystery. There's no suspense. There's no surprise. That can get pretty boring. So puts a spin on so many things that it's hard. It's difficult to imagine how things would be if you knew everything. It'd be pretty bleak. But then again, there's so many good things that I don't know. One of the things that I feel like when I went through my ayahuasca experiences is I felt bliss, but bliss was so overwhelmingly blissful that it was painful. That you needed a break. So this is like maybe this world is like a vacation from bliss, because there's some horrible aspects to it. And then you go back to bliss and you go, oh, this is more like it. And then you get bored and you go, you know what? We need some decadence and depravity and corruption and torture. let's go back to Earth. And then it's like, now I know why I like being so blissful and peaceful. It's because this is horrible. Anyways, that's how I can see it that way. Anyways, thank you for joining me. I don't know. Like I have plans. I had plans for material, and then I throw all that out the window. I have concepts. I have ideas that I realize are gonna put you in the same situation where I'm not gonna even help. I don't even know if this helped, but it clears some things up. I think some for people to explore, and the weird thing is, I know that there's some people out there that even know me, or even people who don't know me, and they're just gonna be like, this person's crazy nut. But they have, it's like the ad hominem attacks. They have nothing to refute against anything that I said or looked at, because I look at what legitimate sources, what they would consider as legitimate sources. If they don't consider government.gov sites as legitimate, then they're the conspiracy theories, aren't they? Theorists. So it's just a weird frame of mind, but I know that it works. My wife, who is sick, she was wearing a mask all day, even though she didn't wear it yesterday. She didn't wear it later on today. I told her, you shouldn't wear that mask. It's not like it's protecting you or us if you do have something, but it's probably gonna be harmful to you. And talked about how the Spanish flu of 1918, more people died over pneumonia than the actual virus, and it said in the National Institute of Health, and whatever they want to look at. She just stopped wearing her mask. I don't know if she's gonna do it again, but I think it's like what's that movie, Inception, right? You plant a little seed and it starts growing, and they just go, you know what? He's right. I looked at the news, 250,000 COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. over a year. 250,000 people died. COVID. I think they may even say COVID-related deaths, right? 250,000 isn't a lot. A whole lockdown, big, laws, not even laws that pass, just like ordinances by governors and mayors or whatever. Over 250,000 deaths. That's, if you divide that by 350 million, which is the estimate of the amount of people in the U.S., that's like 0.07%. It's not even 1% of the U.S. population. 0.07%. That's 1 in 150,000. That's the odds that you're going to die from COVID-19. 1 in 150,000. So there you go. That doesn't seem like a lot when you compare it to a lot of other things that are out there. That's more deadly, it appears. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Max Waller, Kathy B, Unusual Rusty, Robert Pukey Ray, and anyone else who's watching that's or watches later. There'll be more of this. There's the awareness of vicious circles. I guess there's gonna be sequels, maybe not. I like to segue, do different things. Heck, you may not even see me for a couple months again. Who knows what's gonna happen? But part of the fun is showing up, I guess, when you want to. All right. Take it easy and have a great night.